What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back with Donny Cates' Smashtronaut with the finale, and we finally get the Titan Hulk, the most powerful version of the Hulk that we've ever seen. Now, for those of you guys who want to get caught up, make sure you check the link in the description, or you can click on the card here in the video, which will take you to the Hulk playlist that will get you caught up on all this stuff. But the long and short of it is that the Incredible Hulk is basically here in an alternate reality and is facing off against these altered versions of the Hulk, basically. These accidentally created versions. But the thing about this is that, remember, Bruce Banner was the one controlling the body of the Hulk, and that the Incredible Hulk persona is in the engine room, basically serving as a source of power because of its anger, and that somehow an alternate personality, which seems to be Brian Banner, although Donny Cates hasn't necessarily confirmed it, has now seized control. So it's like if the Incredible Hulk body was being controlled by an evil personality, is basically what it is. Now, the way in which Bruce Banner basically amped up the Incredible Hulk or brought him down in terms of like how much power he would need to face off against a particular threat was basically forcing the Incredible Hulk personality to fight different levels of villains that are out there. So at the baseline level is like the Incredible Hulk just walking along, right? And maybe fighting some guy, or, you know, fighting the Avengers or something like that in the real world. And so in the engine room, it would be these baseline villains, really, like nobody of any real significance. What we're seeing here is what happens when that's amped up all the way to 10, when basically it's the most amount of power that could be taken out of the Incredible Hulk, right? Like literally pushing him to his highest level. Now, Donny Cates doesn't necessarily confirm this, but what he says here, or at least what this indicates, is if this is the most amount of strength the Incredible Hulk can possibly offer, basically pushing him to the limit, then it's way beyond anything we've ever seen. And the highest amount of power that we'd seen from the Incredible Hulk up to this point was Heart of the Monster. When he was so strong, he was actually breaking the dark dimension, the dimension of Dormammu, which at the time was ruled by his sister Umar, who literally showed up in the main Marvel universe asking Doctor Strange for help because the Incredible Hulk just couldn't be stopped. I mean, it was crazy how powerful he was. Still one of the best stories ever. Again, that's in the playlist as well if you guys want to get caught up on that. But the thing about this is that with this personality running the show, it's really just kind of offering this amazing meta commentary, coming in the form of Betty Ross, albeit seemingly actually being somebody else. What we're told here is that it says everyone always says the same thing, that the Hulk is Bruce's identity, right? His alter ego, the embodiment of a scared little boy overwhelmed with impotent rage because of the abuse he endured when he was a little kid, blah, 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 yada, 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 right? She just kind of shuffles it off. And that's true, right? That's one of the best things about this is Donny Cates kind of offering this meta commentary. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what this means, as we're going through this, I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of a background here, although you do get an amazing moment where you basically have like when it's amped up to level 10, which according to Bruce Banner is basically theoretical. He doesn't even really know what would happen if that were the case, that basically it's the Hulk versus the entire Marvel universe, which includes the Living Tribunal, Thanos, and a version of Galactus who is the Hulk. Now, there's a reason behind that, and I'll explain that here in a second, because unless you're familiar with Galactus, you wouldn't know why Galactus looks like the Incredible Hulk. And even this personality doesn't know, which is a really, really cool concept. So the thing about this is that when it comes to the Incredible Hulk mythos, most people out here, whenever they go and they buy an Incredible Hulk comic book and they read an Incredible Hulk comic book, what they want to see is the Incredible Hulk just smashing shit. That's what they want to see. They want to see the Incredible Hulk fighting really powerful people and beating them up and just tearing things up, because that's what the Hulk is known for. Now, people who want a more like character-centric run, that was the old Bill Mantlo and Peter David stuff. Greg Pak focused on that to a degree, but it was more expanding the Incredible Hulk mythos and then focusing on like the character of the Hulk insofar as it related to like Hiro Kala and Scar, the sons he didn't know he had, which were really, really cool. And there were a few other things that went in there, but in terms of like a character deconstruction of the Hulk, what's being referenced here in terms of the fact that like the Incredible Hulk personality is the physical manifestation of just all the rage that Bruce Banner experienced at the hands of his father's abuse, that's all Bill Mantlo and Peter David. It was initially started by Bill Mantlo back in the day, but he took off before he could finish, and then Peter David continued it on. And that's why, one, a lot of people say the two go hand in hand, that when it comes to that era of the Incredible Hulk, is Bill Mantlo and Peter David together. And two, a lot of people say that Peter David's run of the Incredible Hulk is one of the most important runs. It's not the most interesting run, especially when you compare it to something like Greg Pak, which had a lot more action and a lot more character development. But in terms of everything Greg Pak did, that was built on the shoulders of Peter David. So Peter David's run is probably one of the most significant runs, if for no other reason than the fact that it just sort of changed the Hulk from like the old Stan Lee, Jack Kirby days where he's just like, you know, a monster running around with the mind of a child and like beating things up and like fighting General Thunderbolt Ross and his army and so on and so forth, especially if you look at the Roy Thomas era as well. And it changed him into like, there's actually more to the Incredible Hulk than we initially thought. Now, as far as this whole scenario goes, when it comes to like why Galactus looks like the Incredible Hulk, I mean, technically it is the Incredible Hulk versus Galactus, the Living Tribunal, and the Phoenix Force. It is here in the engine room. But the reason why is something that was established in a story called The Trial of Reed Richards. And we've talked about this before, but basically that set up the idea that Galactus does not actually have a physical form anymore. He did back when he was Gallon, before his universe, before the multiverse was destroyed, and then he re-emerged after merging with that universe's version of Eternity, essentially. When he was reborn into the new universe as Galactus, he had a human form back when he was initially just what you would call a human or a sentient being. But when he was reborn as Galactus, he's pure energy. And so if you saw him as he really is, it would just be a swirling mass of energy inside of a giant purple suit. And there's one point where Odin like headbutts Galactus and shatters his helmet, which I'm pretty sure we did a video on that. And that in turn, you actually see Galactus in what looks like his human form. But the reality here is it's how an Asgardian would see him. Because in the Trial of Reed Richards, what they set up and what they stated is that Galactus is a mirror for whatever race or whatever being sees him. So if you are a Skrull and you see Galactus, he will look like a Skrull. If you are a Kree, he'll look like a Kree. If you're a human, he'll look human. And so if you're an Asgardian, he'll probably look like an Asgardian, which is why in this instance, the Incredible Hulk sees Galactus and he sees an Incredible Hulk. So the thing about this and what's really cool is the Hulk literally amps up and starts attacking everything, right? Starts attacking all of them. Now, the funny thing about this is during this whole situation, the entire monologue offered by this Betty Brant, we can call her Betty Brant, right? This Betty Brant-esque person, which is most likely Brian Banner, that literally it says, over the years, there have been so many Hulks, gray ones, red ones, blue ones, Wolverine ones, which is actually called Weapon H, and he was not that interesting. She says, it seems to me that, well, everyone gets to have a Hulk these days. Bruce has a Hulk, Rick Jones had a Hulk, General Thunderbolt Ross had a Hulk, Jennifer Walters even had a Hulk. And she said, hell, even God has a Hulk, which is cool to see Donny Cates referencing the Al Ewing run, where we basically learned that the one below all is what happens when God hulks out. And so she's like, it's really unfair, isn't it? Like, why can't the Hulk have a Hulk? Now, this gives us two things. One is a retcon that everyone's glad happened, and two is a new version of the Hulk. And so what we end up getting, like as this fight goes on, technically the Betty Ross persona is in the mind of the Incredible Hulk. In the real world, the Incredible Hulk is fighting in this alternate reality against like all these different just grotesque and mutilated versions of the Hulk. Remember, in this alternate universe, there was an effort to basically utilize gamma energy as a source of renewable energy. Things went wrong, and instead of becoming a renewable energy source, it ended up mutating a whole host of the world's population into these different versions of the Hulk. And that's what the Incredible Hulk's fighting now in the real world. So that's why I say it's something to kind of keep in mind. Donny Cates does it a little finicky, right? He does it a little weird, but essentially anytime you see somebody that looks like they're in a cockpit, they're in the mind of the Incredible Hulk. When you see the version of the Incredible Hulk that looks like a robot kind of, that's basically him in the real world. So just something to keep in mind here. The thing about this is that as this fight goes on, because the Hulk is being so readily overpowered and quite literally being slapped around, what it ends up doing is the Incredible Hulk himself hulks out. Now, this is something Marvel had done before, and it was ass. So in the story of Axis, basically the Incredible Hulk hulked out into basically Klaw, which was the Incredible Hulk spelled backwards. It was a terrible idea, ridiculously dumb, and so what we got instead of that was this, like Donny Cates just being like, this is what happens when the Hulk hulks out. He ends up becoming the Titan Hulk, which is nuts, because he literally looks part machine, like it's just ridiculously OP, which is absolutely amazing. I love this. I mean, dude, the guy's just spewing energy everywhere. But this is why I say, this is what it looks like. This is seemingly the most powerful version of the Incredible Hulk that we've ever seen. Now, there are huge differences between this version of the Hulk and like Heart of the Monster. In looking at these two, you kind of have to come from a feats perspective. And in terms of like what each one is capable of, we saw what the Heart of the Monster Hulk was able to do. I mean, again, shattering and like breaking apart the dimension of one of the most powerful magic wielders in existence, which, depending on who's writing the story, dwarfs the power of Doctor Strange. That is crazy. Like literally them having to take off from their dimension and ask Doctor Strange for help to deal with that version of the Incredible Hulk. So we're not really seeing those same levels of feats. Now, I would be curious to see what happens if the Titan Hulk ends up in the Dark Dimension again and how that unfolds. It would be pretty wild and it would be pretty cool. But this is what happens when the Incredible Hulk's just strength, rage, anger, all that kind of stuff, and really fear take hold and is pushed to the absolute limit. We just get this massively grotesque, huge thing, right? And literally what they're saying is they're like, I've never seen anything like this before. It's like 30 feet tall. Like this thing is enormous, right? I mean, he's just huge. Like it's amazing. I absolutely love this. So again, here in the real world, in this alternate reality, you have General Thunderbolt Ross and you have this alternate reality version of Bruce Banner. And this alternate version of Bruce was in a lot of ways kind of subservient to General Thunderbolt Ross, but only insofar as this alternate reality version of Bruce was basically a coward, racked by guilt and fear and so on and so forth. And so the reality here is Thunderbolt Ross basically ends up getting on the radio and calling in like a gamma bomb detonation. Now, the way this works, seemingly what would happen here is somehow gamma radiation has been altered by General Thunderbolt Ross to where it's more akin to like a nuclear explosion, right? Enough that it would just eradicate everything here. And in truth, usually when it comes to like a nuclear bomb or something like that, it's a combination of heat and force and radiation, right? I mean, if you're at ground zero when a nuclear warhead goes off or a nuclear bomb detonates, which technically it doesn't detonate on the ground, it detonates a little above ground, just to maximize the area of destruction. I mean, you would be incinerated by the heat immediately. And assuming you weren't incinerated by the heat, if you're close enough to the blast, I mean, you'd probably be knocked into a building and just killed that way, right? Your skull would be crushed by the impact. But assuming that doesn't happen, the radiation sickness would probably kill you as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of ways to die as a result of a nuclear bomb going off. But like, that really seems to be what it is here, right? It would just be like, literally just heat and pressure is basically what General Thunderbolt Ross is banking on. Whether or not it would work, we don't know. I mean, there have literally been instances where like the Incredible Hulk, who's just kind of angry, has been able to withstand the power of a nuclear bomb. Even Maestro, right? Like literally Maestro Hulk absorbed the radiation that came from nuclear bombs. So we've seen different variations of the Hulk over the years who could easily withstand a nuclear explosion. How a weaponized gamma explosion would impact the Hulk, I don't entirely know. I mean, literally the Hulk is living gamma radiation. My assumption would be that he would just absorb it. But the reality here, and the point that this alternate version of Bruce Banner brings up, is that Thunderbolt Ross can't do that. Like, it's a terrible thing to do, because if he did, thousands of people would die. Because while we don't see them because they're not the main focus here, there's basically a populated area, right? It's not overly populated, and they kind of seem to be off out there and a little bit of a distance, but the explosion radius would be high enough, or would be wide enough, that it would kill so many innocent people. And that in turn, Thunderbolt Ross just kind of like overpowering or really just sort of directing Bruce Banner is like, no, like, I don't care. In the end, like, we'll both end up killing thousands of people. And he says, because remember, you're the reason why these different versions of the Hulk exist in the first place, and you're the one that brought this alternate Hulk here. So really, this is all your fault. Now, the reality here is Thunderbolt Ross, to a degree, trying to assuage his guilty conscience, if he even has one, and just trying to bring Bruce Banner down with him. But where this version of Bruce is kind of a depiction of what would happen if Bruce Banner just never grew any balls, he never became the Incredible Hulk, and was never like an enemy of Thunderbolt Ross insofar as he was able to overpower him, likely humiliate him a few times, that the only thing he really can do is muster up what courage he has, and he in turn attacks Thunderbolt Ross and is like, no, I'm not going to let you kill thousands of people. Now, while, within the context of this particular story, it doesn't seem significant, or at least this particular video, over the course of the videos that we've covered, it's a huge moment, because this alternate reality version of Bruce was constantly racked by guilt and constantly felt like he was making terrible mistakes. And even then, he didn't realize that where he was basically sending all these different versions of the Hulk that they caught across their world into the ether, right, into some portal somewhere with no clue where they went to, that what was really going on is that he was sending the ones out there that General Thunderbolt Ross didn't want. That what Thunderbolt Ross was doing was going around and grabbing those different versions of the Hulk that he could use, that he thought were weaponized. So in reality, he was, at least by his own imagination, kind of using his own mind, feeding into his own guilt, he was the reason why all these different abominized versions of the Hulk were continuing to live these terrible existences under the servitude of General Thunderbolt Ross, because he didn't wouldn't know. But had he not done what he done in creating the gamma detonation, trying to create some kind of renewable energy, they never would have been left to that fate in the first place. So the screwed up world in which Bruce Banner lives here, he largely takes as being his fault. Him attacking Thunderbolt Ross, overpowering him, pointing that gun at him and saying, no, like, you're not going to kill anybody anymore. This is seemingly him overcoming that guilt and accepting that not everything bad that's going on now is his fault, right? That, like, there are some things out there that are just a result of the fact that people are dicks, right? Like General Thunderbolt Ross is just a terrible person who is doing terrible things. And despite what Thunderbolt Ross said, it was not the fault of Bruce Banner. Now, the other part of this is that in the mindscape of the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner kind of claws his way back into the Incredible Hulk's mind, more or less, where he was just kind of out there. Basically, it was an in-comic representation of the fact that, like, the Bruce Banner persona was forced to take a back seat. So ultimately, of course, with him coming back in, we do get this version of Betty Ross, this personality, which seemingly kind of alters and kind of changes and takes on this different form. Again, we don't know exactly what this is, but I would go as far as to say, if the Titan Hulk is what happens when the Hulk hulks out, that this is the mental representation of what the Titan Hulk looks like. We don't know that for sure. We're not 100% certain, but in the end, there's this kind of discussion where literally the personality is like, you have no power here, Banner, right? Like, you are weak, you are pathetic, you cannot take control, you cannot wrestle control of the body away from me. And the response of Banner is, I know, but he has the power to do it. And in doing so, flips the switch, like literally hits the emergency switch and allows the Incredible Hulk persona to come in. Now, here's the thing. It's amazing the way this is drawn, right? Like, literally the door's just half open and like the Incredible Hulk persona is just there. And it's like the head of Galactus is behind him and he looks pissed. And he comes smashing in here. So what you're seeing here right now is basically a battle of personalities, right? It's the Incredible Hulk personality versus the Bruce Banner personality versus whatever this new alternate personality is, which is seemingly the personality of the Titan Hulk. I would go as far as to say that was the case. But the way this is drawn can get really, really hairy and a little bit confusing. And so in essence, what happens here is that in the mind of the Incredible Hulk, right, where you basically have the Bruce Banner personality, the Titan Hulk personality, and the Incredible Hulk personality, the Incredible Hulk personality is able to beat back the Titan Hulk personality. In the real world, the Titan Hulk itself is literally just unbridled energy that it just can't control. And so because it has all this energy and because it doesn't know how to control all this energy, like, this is seemingly just a mindless thing. It literally just roars. We never really hear it speak or anything like that. That in the end, all this energy just kind of explodes in a massive explosion, right? It just goes off, right? It literally just blows up. And so what you have here, at least momentarily, is essentially a reunification of personalities. The Titan Hulk personality has been beat back to wherever it came from. We don't really know where it came from, but presumably it just resides down there in the mindscape somewhere. And that as a result of the destruction of the quote-unquote real-world Titan Hulk, now it's basically just the Incredible Hulk back in its normal form. And so at this point, Banner basically runs back into the cockpit, right, the mind of the Incredible Hulk, and in doing so, re-seizes control. And as that goes on, of course, this gamma bomb is falling, and it's gonna cost so much life. And so what ends up happening is there's a conversation between alternate reality Banner and the Incredible Hulk Banner, right? Banner 1, Banner 2, Banner 3, but you end up having like this this conversation between these where alternate reality Banner is like, look, this gamma bomb's falling, you have to do something, right? Like, I have an idea. And so, you know, Prime Banner, we can call him that, Banner from the main Marvel universe, is like, then what do you want me to do? And alternate Banner's like, I'm opening a portal. And basically that bomb is gonna come through that portal and it's gonna land here, right? It's gonna end up here where I am. But in the end, it's the rightful thing to do. I've caused nothing but just death and destruction and just horrible things. I wouldn't go, I mean, he doesn't go as far as to say like, it's the fate that awaits me, but he says like, I really hope that you don't end up like me. I really hope that you don't end up in this place where you're basically like this kind of horrible, terrible villain. What you have here in the form of the Incredible Hulk is quite literally a gift. Use it, right? Like, use it as a gift, treat it with respect, but use it to do good things. Now, this is actually a really, really cool concept because what this does is it gives us perspective. That the only real perspective we have when it comes to the Incredible Hulk is what we've seen over the course of Marvel Comics and potentially some alternate realities. And unless you're looking at like Warren Ellis's Marvel The End, you don't really see a whole lot of like totally screwed up, twisted up versions of the Incredible Hulk. But that's all this alternate reality Banner knows, are just twisted, screwed up versions of the Hulk. And so as as a result of this, once that bomb goes through, and of course it ends up detonating, that the portal is reopened and Banner, or at least the Incredible Hulk anyway, travels through it to wherever his destination ends up taking him next. He has no clue where it is that he's going to end up going. All he knows is that literally at the moment, the hammer of All-Father Thor, which was recently reassembled by Angela and the angels of heaven, is making its way towards the Hulk. So in essence, what we're apparently going to see here, which makes perfect sense because literally it's the 60th anniversary of the Incredible Hulk and Thor fighting for the first time, that what we're going to end up getting is All-Father Thor against probably the Titan Hulk, which I am ridiculously excited to see. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. In order to make all this easier to understand, we're just going to make it into a full story. It should make it a whole lot easier to follow, but I will catch you all later. Peace.